supposed to do.
This whistleblower policy, we've seen the presidency having interest in it, so it looks that it's a good move. How assuring is that a policy? Because the recent one, we've seen one of the social media having to criticize what happens in the, I think in the prison, with the Bobrisky, the ones on the social media and back and forth trying to speak out on the corruptions cases and how protective. The House of Representatives on invitation have to invite one party and leaving the other party, and that those are probably having a concern. If people must speak, how protective and how assuring are Nigerians in terms of speaking out and enhancing the whistleblower?
Well, it's over 10, 12 years now. They have refused to pass the Whistleblower Act. And there's supposed to be two bills, the Whistleblower Act and the Witness Protection, because after blowing the whistle, you have the mechanisms. And the mechanism for whistleblowing, you have to know how to protect those people. And the problem is they're only looking at corruption. There are other security issues where there needs to be protection. Somebody wants to blow a whistle on a security issue, but if he's not well protected, now that we have problems in the Northeast, the person will not blow the whistle. So they should please hurry up and pass that law for the interest of the country, not only on corruption. There are several elements where you need to blow the whistle. That's why these things are happening. So I learned the last time there was some movement in that area, they want to domicile it in the Public Complaints Commission by calling it the Public Interest Disclosure Bill. Then the National Correctional Service will be in charge of the witness protection aspect, because that is their core functions of protecting witnesses.
Many thanks, Dr. Omar Yakubu, the Director, Executive Director. Thanks so much for the Center for Fiscal. Thanks so much for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you very much.
I've continued to do a great work in tracking some of these transparency in a public service.
Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. We'll just turn our attention to the recent increase of NNPC in respect to the fuel price, and that has heated a whole lot of conversations and concern among Nigerians. After this short break, we'll discuss that. Do stay with us.
For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society. For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society.
Now, on the increase of the fuel price, the Nigerian Labour Congress has reacted towards a move by NNPC in increasing the of the pump price of the petrol in reactions. They continue to have a concern on how far and how much this is on Nigerians. This is following the announcement of the new pump price earlier today. The NSC are also picking holes in the role of the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, accusing the oil company of acting as monopoly that dictates fuel prices and contrary to the principle of competitive market. The labor leaders has warned that the latest price increase will excavate the country's poverty level, shrinking production capacity and leading for more job losses. This has continued to build a concern of NLC and the recent increase at NNPC filling station at 1,013 naira. We'll be joined by our senior energy consultant who will be joining us virtually from Lagos to give us a perspective as to how far this really means for Nigerians. The increase just barely some months where we had witnessed the increase to over 985 naira. And now it has increased at over 14%, where Nigerians are actually having a concern on the impact of this new increase. What is the way forward? What is happening to a refinery? It's more than some months that NNPC had promised Nigerians that our local refineries will be put to work. The Nigerians are having and are still asking the question, where is our refineries? And what happens to Dangote as the NNPC quitted the role of the middleman, allowing other marketers to lift the product from Dangote refinery? All of that will be what we'll be discussing very shortly after the break with Dr. Wisdom. Stay with us. I'll be right back.
For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight,
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society. For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight,
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society.
Many thanks for staying with us. Dr. Wilson Anang, Senior Energy Consultant and Analyst, joins us from Lagos. Respects on the increase of the NNPC petrol price, which is just an adjustment that has followed the report of a potential price hike due to their withdrawal as the intermediary in the Dangote's refinery purchase deal. Thanks so much, Doctor, for joining us on the program tonight. Quickly, there's a second upward adjustment by NNPC between September and now October, just barely a month, and those are having a concern if NNPC do not understand the situation, rather than having Dangote refinery how to reduce the price, we are being hit again with an increase. Are we progressing or retrogressing, Doctor?
Thank you very much. I think we are slowly allowing the market forces to take place. And I'm going to give you a bit of context. So what the NNPCL has done in this case is to say that they wouldn't be playing the middleman role anymore. The middleman role was the role of a monopolist, which was simply negotiate and buy the quantities for required for the Dangote from the refinery for Nigerian consumption, and then by so doing you can negotiate quite a very big price, quite a very good price, because you're having a large quantity, and then you can pass that on to consumers. But embedded in that monopolist practice was the fact that NNPCL was paying 133 naira per litre for every Nigerian's consumption. Now, what the NNPCL has said is that we cannot absorb that anymore. Remember, they're still owing about $6.8 billion in subsidy, loans or debts to different suppliers, and they're saying, "Look, we cannot take this anymore. We want to quit that space so that other people can come into that space and negotiate directly." What that means, in effect, is that Nigerians are going to be paying, whatever, cost it was, plus the amount, whatever cost the product was previously, plus the amount of subsidy that the NNPCL were applying. And that means that we're going to be paying, on a worst case scenario, where we've seen the prices change to about 1,000 plus, but that is actually, that might get better, right? The reason I say it might get better is because at the moment, we haven't got any product which is midwifed as a result of the crude for Naira deal yet. We haven't gotten there yet. The crude for Naira deal has only taken effect as of the early, I think it was day before yesterday. And so we haven't gotten to a point where we can now say that the PMS that is being sold in our stations as a result of that deal. What do I expect? That when that deal comes forward, and if that deal is maintained at the volume that we're talking about, 450,000 barrels per day, if we can sustainably maintain that, it means that we would have the sort of fluctuations that is associated to Forex taken care of, would have the shipments cost, the cost of insurance, and the middleman cost for shipping refined products in will be taken out. So I look at, in the long term, another fall in the price. But that is only when we begin to have PMS in our stations, which we can say this is from the crude for Naira deal. And that is contingent on the crude for Naira deal actually working.
All right, Doctor. Thanks so much for the background. Let's quickly get to understand these issues because the much concern we're having also, not just on our local refinery, there are also a concern of the fact that there is ought to be, the market ought to be competitive. As much as NNPC are trying to protect Nigerians, so as not to for the independent marketers to take advantage of the Nigerian market on the purchase deal. Allowing the private and individuals, independent marketers to also have a withdrawal from Dangote refinery. Would you feel that in a bit this will crush down the price? Also, NNPC selling crude in Naira to Dangote, would it also be an sign of improvement? We are aware of their debt and all of that.
All right, thank you very much. I think first and foremost, we need to understand how equilibrium price is established. Equilibrium price is an interaction between demand and supply. In this case, we have the supply is relatively the same. Whether it is NNPCL that is going to bid for it, or it is the supply, it is the major off-takers that are going to bid for it directly, the demand is being fixed by the Nigerian consumption. That doesn't change. What is changing is that on one hand, the NNPCL has access to what we call economies of scale, obviously because they can negotiate for larger quantities and as such can get a better deal. On the other hand, we have fragments of negotiations here and there from the various off-takers. So let's separate that. The supply is really constant and the demand doesn't change. So nothing is going to change on the equilibrium price other than the fact that because the NNPCL has the powers, if you do not sell it as cheap as the imported option, NNPCL can go ahead and import. Because they have those powers, they can checkmate the Dangote refinery prices. And because they're also buying so much, they can enjoy economies of scale. So the demand is not going to shift simply because, it is now the sort of major suppliers that are going to offtake directly. That's not going to move the market. What I think is going to move the market would have been if we have various supply options. What happens when the supply curve shifts, a little bit to the left and the demand is constant? What do you see? We then have the price will begin to drop. That is exactly what should have caused the price drop. So the price drop isn't going to be because we're changing from robbing Peter to rob Paul. It's not going to change because essentially it's still robbery. What is going to change the price is if we begin to have the supply. And that brings me to the second question. The second question is saying, the supply of crude to the refinery, is that going to help? Yes, of course, I've said it's going to help because it's going to cut off all of these logistics, insurance, clearing costs that are associated, including the cost of the credit facilities for the importation, that which are also in dollars, that is going to clear off about 35% or 30 to 35% of the overall cost of landing the product. And once that is passed on and the domestic refineries churn it out, the consumer should be able to benefit from that. So the imperative that the only joker in the card is the supply. The supply is very imperative. The supply, domestic supply, because the last thing you want is to have a situation where we start out very nice, we meet at least 400,000 barrels of crude per day on average. And then after about 3 weeks, we hear that the NNPCL are constrained because of either crude oil theft, because of maybe the facilities have shut down some of them, or because of the crude reserve back loans. And as such, cannot meet that again. And then we hear another headline that Dangote Refinery on a certain month, maybe in December, has gone to the US to buy crude. And when they come back, they tell you they have to refine and sell at the price. Remember, because of the conflict in the Middle East, the crude prices are going up. So you need to understand this. And that is going to take a toll if we ever have to import. So the joker in the card that we have in the pack of cards is to make sure that we can supply domestic crude to the refinery. And so we boycott all the international and logistics costs. And then we can pass those cost savings on to the average Nigerian without the need for any subsidy. Sorry, I can't hear. I can't hear anything.
Over weeks after, where Nigerians will continue to have an increase. Should they not, for once, take a stand? If the landing cost is over 1,500, shouldn't that also be the case? Or does it look like government, on the other hand, are subsidizing the product? Because Nigerians seems to also have feelings that it looks like government are not economical with the truth.
Yeah, so come again. I couldn't hear most of what you said.
Okay, my
Yeah, go on.
my question is about the concern over if government are still subsidizing this product, because from all indication, it looks that this is not the true landing cost. Should they rather have to tell Nigerians this is the landing cost and this is what we have to sell, other than having been economical with the truth, selling at 1,030 naira today, and tomorrow again we may be hit with a new price?
Yeah, I think we need to separate two things. Is the inventory that is being priced at 1,030 naira, is that a result of the inventory that has been purely imported, or is that a result of the inventory that is refined from the Dangote refinery and they bought the feedstock? So they did not buy the finished products. They bought the feedstock and refined it. Now, if the latter is the case, then the price seems just about right with little or no subsidy. If the former is the case, where we're expecting the landing cost to be around 1,250 naira, roughly, then of course there's still subsidy in. But as we transit to a point where most of our consumption in country is going to come from the Dangote refinery, God willing, we then have the crude for naira deal work. We should not have subsidy at about 1,100 max. We shouldn't have subsidy at those prices. So I believe that we are in a transition phase where we are heading out of the fully imported inventory, for which it was subsidized heavily by the NMPCL. So I think we moved on to the inventory from the Dangote refinery, although using imported feedstock. And the NMPCL said even at that price, they were still subsidizing at 133 naira per liter. Now I think we're moving on to a point where we're selling it with little or no subsidy, and we will now get to a point where the crude for naira deal kicks in effect, saves us some of that money that I talked about, the logistics and the insurance and all of that. And then we could even have either a net price position or even a decrease depending on the level of savings versus how much subsidy is. Remember in all of this that it's all contingent on the crude for naira deal being implemented exactly as it ought to be implemented.
Doctor, now in all of this, we are bothered about the purchasing power of Nigerians, because when you look at the economic situation now, yes, there is an increase about the product, but Nigerians sometimes are finding it very difficult to afford the product. How do we begin to manage all of this, underscoring the already existing economic hardship for a good number of times now in the country, when Nigerians are still having an outcry? What do you feel that government can do to hasten up process where it will not really be biting hard on Nigerians? They promise CNG buses. Nigerians are still asking questions because we are afraid that people will lose their jobs, and this will also get more untold hardship on Nigerians on these recent events.
Thank you very much. I think you've hit the nail right there. And that I'm going to answer by saying we need to go back to the drawing board on what actually classes as the tenets of energy security. So we have energy affordability, energy accessibility, and energy availability. Now we have to now begin to look at the sermon of energy transition, not just from a nice to say avenue, but from a must-have avenue where we must-have options. So essentially, what is the next big thing? The next big thing is gas. Remember, a CNG car in liters equivalent is going to use maybe about 230 naira per liter of equivalence of gas versus the liter of fuel. To achieve the same energy output, you would have to pay 1,030 naira for fuel, PMS, but it's 230 naira for a CNG. But for you to, affordability has been solved, right? But what about accessibility and availability? This is where the government will come in. The CNG stations that we talked about for even private people, we need to start building it. We need to start even rolling out the CNG buses themselves. We need to start giving people options. Already, let me say this. The CNG needs a lot of infrastructure, and that is one of the biggest impedances to the private people getting on board the CNG program. If you then look at energy transition when it comes to a household, a lot of households are using inverter, a lot of them are using solar panels. That means they're already operationalizing energy transition. So we need to get to a point where the government gives us the imperatives to support energy transition with CNG vehicles, where they give us that support, because there's a lot of gas everywhere, and there's need for the government to do this as quickly as possible and make sure that we have options. Essentially, the most important thing that people need to start thinking about is begin to think energy transition. Begin to think moving to CNG for those that can afford it. Begin to think, the government should begin to think about, some of those funds that they are doing with NCDMB, local content, we can pick some of those funds, the 1% that is used for 1% of the operating expenses of oil and gas companies that is put towards the NCDMB fund could be increased to like 1.5%, and the 5% is used to set up CNG energy options in different states. We can do that. We can begin to use the build, operate, and transfer model, allow investors to come in, build the facility, operate it for a period of 15 to 20 years or 25 years, make back their money, and then hand it over to the whoever is going to be the operator of the government. There are a number of models, but I think this is where we place the icing on the cake to make sure that we play around and improve the prospects of energy accessibility and energy availability when it comes to the other alternate energy options. Essentially, we should have a situation where people can choose whatever energy they want to consume or whatever is cheaper for them. And that should be what the conversation should be at the moment. And that's exactly what the government should be putting their energy towards improving.
Recent move by the government, recent move unveiling fuel CNG conversion portal in a bid to also have some Nigerians having to vehicle owners to convert. That's for vehicle owners. We'll continue to have a concern on if Nigerians really understand what is a proper engagement, a proper sensitization among the Nigerian people with the federal government underscoring the importance of this energy. We've seen how much Nigeria currently is tracking towards the climate change, and there's a need for this sensitization, there's a need for this awareness. Do you feel that more should be done in terms of sensitization, and if we can begin to have Nigerians understand that there's a need to transit from where we are to that reality? And also, what is your assessment about government walking the talk? Because it's not just about fantastic initiative, it's about what are they currently doing? Are they leading by example? Are they what is on ground that should really something to shed how this can go? The way to go as we wrap up, please.
All right, thank you. I think you've said it all. Government needs to walk the talk. You obviously want energy transition, but we should be issuing out cards to government officials that have the CNG options. We should obviously be changing our mass transit options to CNG, and that essentially should, again, cascade the prices. Because if I go, for example, I'll give you context, if I go to the Lagos Metro buses, and I feel that the non-CNG options are perhaps maybe 500 naira for the trip, and the CNG options are about 200 naira. That alone will make people want to feel that, okay, this CNG is real. Sometimes it could just be that that's a way to drive the narrative. Abroad, you find out that there are options. For example, if there's a heavy traffic, you see one road, they say this is the normal road, but this side has it's a fast lane. There's obviously no traffic, and then you could take that path. So people need to have those options. So the government needs to walk the talk. What are other countries doing? When it comes to energy transition, for example, other countries are giving things like they're giving support in terms of knowledge transfer. They're setting up technological hubs to drive that case. They're also opening up the market, because the market is not going to open up just because we've set up a CNG factory. The market should essentially be government. Government should say, we've opened up, we've given any investor access. If you set up a CNG plant, you can convert all our vehicles. We have about 2,000 vehicles. You can go ahead and convert it. That investor knows that they don't need to look for private people. They can start with the government. So the government should use their cars or the cars of their appointed officers to begin to create the market for anyone, and then government will walk that talk, and then the private people will see at the advantage and then would follow suit.
A very big thanks to Dr. Wisdom Anang, Senior Energy Analyst and Consultant. Thanks so much for sparing some of your time this evening with us on the program.
Thank you. Do enjoy your evening.
All right, everyone, we continue to have a concern on how this can go. The recent increase by NNPCL and the fact that many Nigerians are still knocking on them in respect to the price, on how the economic hardship is not in any way in any way getting better, and Nigerians are still having a concern on what government should do. And that is an expert and consultant given on insight and what the way we should continue to have engagement with. There is a need to have other things away from the normal vehicles, the fuel-powered vehicles that we have in the country, so as to continue to have this reduction of the hardship among Nigerians. That's the size of a program tonight on Big Talk. We'll continue to have a concern in other developments nationally as we'll have a conversation again tomorrow, sometime on the station. Do stay with us. My name is Deacon Michael. I'm your host. See you tomorrow.